Hey vinyl community, how you doing everybody? Well, as you can see at the start of my video, I am in England. So, let's begin this trip. Come on with me. Here we go. Liverpool, London, everywhere. We're going to do this.
Feet of striking, what a load of old rubbish. It's even worse on the upper floors. It's tourism on the upper floors, but it used to look like this. Go in there in 1963, 1964, 1965, and they're going to go record loads and loads of records. And they're all here on the Beatles at the BBC. Now, if you ask somebody when they're coming out of there, what did you do? And they'll say, well done you. So there you go, there's modern life for you. It used to be a great place in that souvenir shop. Isn't that lovely? Well done London. For keeping our heritage. Prince of Wales Theatre. It's showing the Book of Mormon, and that is where, on the 18th of November 1963, the Beatles played the Royal Command performance in front of Princess Margaret, the Queen Mother. And it's that one where the Beatles just finished playing Till There Was You, and they were going to go into Twist and Shout. And John wanted to get things moving a bit, and so he said, if those of you in the cheap seats can clap your hands, can the rest of you rattle your jewellery? That was that one back there. And the other way is to die.
But this is also where the Beatles
you need to let this guy through. Look, hello? Come on, look, there's Bowie up in space. Finally he got where he was right about but David Bowie's here because he recorded everything on the bass.
My Sweet Lord, George Harrison was talking about, was recorded here as well.
Queen, 4 or 5 albums recorded here. Freddie has touched that door. Do you know where the bus is? Are you alright? Yeah. I'm going to run away. I'll see you.
So this is really cool. This is where the Beatles recorded Hey Jude.
But the other reason they wanted to go into Trident was because the Beatles had done 25 takes of Hey Jude at Abbey Road, but it just wasn't working out. And the reason it wasn't working out is because they'd invited a film crew to come in to do a documentary making of Hey Jude, right? And they just couldn't do it with all the cameras. It wasn't working. So anyway, 2 reasons they came into Trident Studios. And then once the Beatles had been in, everybody wants to know. So that's when everybody else got involved, you know. On your left here, brown building, that stands for a big old, millions of people here, all celebrating the day of the photo shoot. This film crew said, can I do an interview with you? The Channel 5 it was here. But then that night I got 3 texts from friends in America saying, we've just seen you on MSNBC. Abbey Road. And it's very quiet. Look at that, pretty mellow there. We've got the studios. This is Abbey Road Studios, and I have parked in the perfect position because the reason that 31 is because for the garden. All right, the garden is 250 feet back, goes all the way back. Studio 1, all 250 feet back there. It's like an aircraft hangar in there, amazing. But EMI also bought this house, the next one here. And Studio 2 was built in the back garden of that house, and you can see Studio 2. See the gap in the buildings there? Yeah. That is Studio 2 right there, all right? So that's the Beatles studio, right? That's the one. 7 years they were in there for.
Here we go, it's a better shot of it, but yeah, right in front of the Abbey Road Studios. Okay, here's the Abbey Road Studios, but as you can turn my camera around, right here is the actual walk across the Beatles did. It's actually not too crowded right now, I'm surprised. But this is it, right here. Here we go. More video footage. Another shot that's great. This is, they've got gates in front of the studios now, which they never had that before, the Abbey Road Studio. Then they did this for the 50th anniversary. This is all along the wall. There we go, there's a nice shot of the studios. The front. All kinds of okay, and there I signed the wall. Beatles Brad. Some more signings along here. Okay, here's a much better shot of it. Okay, and then we got a Abbey Road gift shop. Okay, probably not supposed to be recording in here, but here's a quick clip. travel show, once a day. Some more stuff in here.
He had 2 top 10s in the States, and he played drums with Pink Floyd. Not many people can say that. Him and Nick Mason, in fact. Anyway, he was done by Rubber Soul. He wanted to go off. So they replaced him, George Martin replaced him with a guy who was 18 years old, and his name was Geoff Emerick. And Geoff Emerick smoked Everest cigarettes. And he used to leave these packets of cigarettes around in the studio. And it sort of became the joke that that's what they call the White Album, first of all, and then Abbey Road. But then, what happens next? Well, it becomes, Ringo doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to go to Mount Everest and have his photo taken, because he doesn't like travelling, basically. Paul and John and George, well, they were up for it, but not Ringo. Ringo, who had he didn't really like travelling anywhere, Ringo. He had quite a bad tummy. When he was 7 years old, he was in hospital for a year.
Okay, and here's the house that Ringo lived in and John lived in, and this is where John got busted as well. This is John's house, Jimi Hendrix, and slews of other people. Pete Townsend actually lived here for a little while. Hey, also, I forgot to mention, the Ringo Starr also lived in that house, and John and Yoko did their 2 Virgin album cover down in the basement. They kind of did a self-portrait, set it up on a tripod and did a timer and all that. But yeah, John and Yoko as well. Back to our show.
He was made a Companion of Honour, and he was made a Sir back in 1997. But last year he was made a Companion of Honour. Now, there's only
Yes, he is, yeah.
right, last May. Now there are only 65 Companions of Honour at any one time. So I'm guessing it's a little bit like a taxi rank, right? Which is that one of them, somebody has to expire. And then the next person up comes along, and that person last year was Paul McCartney. He was made a Companion of Honour. Everybody else on that sheet that's coming around there are sirs and dames. So like, for instance, their manager, Brian Epstein, that they called them the Mr. Brian Epsteins. That's what they called them. And it was George that started that whole thing off. So there you go. They were in love with him. We're going to go and see where Brian used to live when he was, but when he moved down to London, initially he rented out up in a place in North London, but at the end, in the last 4 years of his life, 1964 to 1967, he lived at 24 Chapel Street, and that is where we are going.
This is Brian's flat that he had.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
We are in St John's Wood, and I'm talking to Brad. And by the way, Beatle Brad. If you want his YouTube, am I right?
Yes.
Beatle Brad.
Oh.
All right, that's for you when you get home. Go
thing.
to YouTube, Beatle Brad, subscribe.
We'll do it.
Okay, and you'll find out more about the Beatles than you'll ever find in a million years otherwise. Now, me and Brad are standing outside number 7 Cavendish Avenue. It's in St John's Wood, and it's the house that Paul bought. So, I shouldn't say Paul, I should say Paul McCartney. Bought on the 13th of April 1965, and he bought it for £40,000, and it's his London home. Hopefully it will always be his London home. He does have other homes. We think he probably lives in Los Angeles, really. He's got a big house in Liverpool and maybe others too, but when he's in London, this is it, 7 Cavendish Avenue. This is about the 4th set of gates, by the way. There weren't any gates when he moved in. The first set of gates were closed so slowly that the Apple Scruffs, do we know where the Apple Scruffs are? The Apple Scruffs was a gang of girls that used to chase the Beatles around everywhere. There were about 40 of them, and they knew where they were going, who they were with, what they were wearing, all this kind of stuff. And they worked out that these gates, they close so slowly that if they get a stick, put it in between, and the last person out goes that way, right? And they just hang around a bit. They go in through the gate because one of them had spotted that Paul used to leave a key underneath the flower pot. So the Apple Scruffs used to get in, let themselves in the house, and just hang out, answering Paul's phone, trying Jane's clothes on. Happy days. Paul did. That's the Beatles building.
Beatles rooftop.
Apple Studios was in the basement down there, and it was there you go. So that's the building that they bought on the 22nd of June 1968. Hey, Big up, thanks to Brad for coming on my tour. I hope you've had a great time. I did, it was amazing having you here. Brad's knowledge is unreal. I had no idea I've learned so much today. But, as we always say, I'm out of here.